In 2016, Andrew Sullivan, a writer and cultural commentator, issued a stark warning. An endless bombardment of news and gossip and images has rendered us manic information addicts. It broke me. It might break you too. This isn't just a hyperbolic statement, it's a sobering truth that has become more apparent with each passing year. In a world where notifications constantly ping, where scrolling through a social media feed has become as natural as breathing, many of us are left wondering, how did we get here? We didn't choose this. No one signed up for this kind of overwhelm. But make no mistake, we've all stumbled backward into it. How? Well, it turns out that behind every ping, every notification, every social media update, there's a multi-billion-dollar industry investing its time, money, and resources into making us addicted. This isn't accidental. The tech giants, companies that design the apps we use every day, are actively engineering our digital lives to be as addictive as possible. And they've done it so successfully that, for many, it's no longer a matter of if we check our phones, but how often. But here's the thing. You weren't always this way. You didn't wake up one day and decide to scroll endlessly, distracted from your own life, unable to focus. You didn't choose to be part of what Newport calls the addiction economy. We've all been pulled in slowly, without realizing it. What began as harmless innovation to make life more convenient has evolved into an ecosystem of distraction, designed specifically to capture and hold your attention for as long as possible. And the more time you spend on these platforms, the more they profit. The relationship between your attention and their bottom line has become transactional. But this story doesn't end with defeat. It doesn't have to. Newport offers a way out, a path toward reclaiming control. He calls it digital minimalism. This isn't about rejecting technology. It's not about going back to flip phones or living like the Amish. No, digital minimalism is something different. It's a systematic approach to transforming the way we interact with our devices. It's about using technology intentionally, with purpose. Rather than allowing it to distract us, we can use it to support a life well lived, a life driven by our values, not by the endless, aimless scroll. In the chapters to come, we'll explore how this philosophy works in practice. But before we dive into Newport's approach, let's take a step back and understand just how we ended up in this situation, this lopsided battle for our attention. The forces that pull us in are no accident. They've been carefully crafted. And to truly break free, we need to understand exactly how we got trapped in the first place. So stay with me as we dive into the story of how technology went from being a helpful tool to an all-consuming force in our lives. The answer may surprise you. Let's take a moment to reflect on a simple action you've probably done today: checking your phone. Maybe it was a message, an email, or, most likely, a notification from one of your social media apps. Now think about that moment. How did it feel? Was there a sense of anticipation? Maybe a little thrill, even if it was just for a second? That's no accident. In fact, checking your likes, comments, or notifications has become the modern-day equivalent of smoking, a small action with a powerful psychological pull. You see, this simple behavior, this seemingly innocent habit, is the result of a very calculated strategy. It's not a random accident. It's part of what Newport calls a lopsided arms race. And this race isn't one you've chosen to enter. It's a race you've been dragged into, without even realizing it. But unlike a traditional arms race, this one doesn't involve armies or weapons. Instead, the technology companies, the ones behind the apps on your phone, are using a very different kind of weapon: your own psychology. These companies have assembled entire teams of neuroscientists, behavioral economists, and data scientists whose sole job is to engineer your addiction to their products. Their goal? To keep you hooked, to keep you scrolling, tapping, and checking your phone over and over again. And the reward? That little shot of dopamine, the brain's chemical of pleasure and reward, that comes with each new notification. But this isn't random. It's intentional. Let's break down the psychology of it. Imagine this. You post something online, maybe a picture, a status update, or a tweet. Then you wait. The first like appears. It's small, but it feels good. Then another one pops up. And another. Suddenly the floodgates open. More likes, more comments. Each notification pulls you in, like a fish to a hook, reinforcing the behavior with the promise of more approval. And the more approval you get, the more you want it. This is where the term intermittent variable rewards comes in. It's a term that refers to the unpredictable nature of the rewards you get, just like pulling a lever on a slot machine. Sometimes you get a reward, sometimes you don't. But because you never know when it's coming, you keep coming back, hoping for the next payout. It's this unpredictability that creates a compulsion to keep checking. Every time you reach for your phone, you're hoping for the jackpot. It's like an addiction, but it's disguised as normal behavior. But that's just one part of the equation. The other piece is what Newport calls the social approval feedback loop. We are social creatures, wired to seek approval from others. In the past, this approval came from face-to-face interactions, praise from a friend or family member. But now, social approval is tied directly to your phone. Every time you check your likes, your comments, or your followers, you're feeding that drive for validation, looking for affirmation from the digital world. The more validation you get, the stronger that need becomes. And then, there's the fear of missing out, better known as FOMO. You're scrolling through your feed, and you see what everyone else is doing, where they're going, who they're hanging out with. And suddenly, a wave of anxiety washes over you. What if I'm missing out? What if there's something happening that I'm not a part of? This constant fear, fueled by social media, is another powerful tool used by these tech giants to keep you engaged. You're afraid of being left out, so you keep checking, even when you know deep down it's not healthy. The fear of missing out drives you to stay connected, to stay in the loop, even if it's at the cost of your peace of mind. Now let's talk about willpower. It's a word we hear often when discussing addiction, whether it's trying to quit smoking, eating better, or cutting down on screen time. You may have tried to limit your phone use before, thinking that with enough self-control you could break free from the cycle. But here's the problem. You're fighting a billion-dollar manipulation machine. These companies have invested vast resources into understanding how your brain works, and they've designed their apps specifically to exploit those weaknesses. Willpower alone simply isn't enough to break free. You can't outsmart the very people who have engineered these addictive behaviors. They know exactly what keeps you coming back. It's not just your weak willpower, it's their psychological expertise working against you. So, what does that leave us with? Is there a way out? Well, now that you understand the forces working against you, forces that go beyond your own personal habits, it's time to look at a solution. And that solution is not about fighting your devices with willpower alone. It's about being intentional in how we use technology, about making conscious decisions that align with our values. That's where digital minimalism comes in, Cal Newport's philosophy for regaining control over your digital life. But before we explore how to implement it, we need to understand how it works. So let's dig into Newport's solution and how you can begin to break free from the grip of this digital addiction. Now that we understand the forces at play, the sophisticated psychological tools designed to keep us hooked to our devices, it's time to explore how we can reclaim control. The solution isn't to reject technology altogether. That would be an extreme approach, one that would leave us disconnected from the very tools that can enrich our lives. Instead, Cal Newport introduces a more nuanced concept, digital minimalism. But what exactly is digital minimalism? Newport defines it clearly: a philosophy of technology use in which you focus your online time on a small number of carefully selected and optimized activities that strongly support the things you value, and then happily miss out on everything else. This isn't about cutting out technology for the sake of cutting it out. It's not about abandoning everything that seems convenient or fun. It's about being extremely selective, choosing to engage with technology only in ways that align with your deeper values. The rest? It's about happily missing out. Take a moment to let that sink in. In a world where it feels like we're expected to be everywhere, doing everything at all times, digital minimalism offers a stark contrast. It's about reclaiming your time, your attention, and your life by choosing to focus on what truly matters. Imagine a life where your digital presence is as intentional as your real-life interactions, where every app, every platform you engage with serves a specific, meaningful purpose. That's the core of digital minimalism. Now let's talk about the any benefit approach that most people use. For many, the idea is simple. If an app, platform, or technology offers some sort of benefit, no matter how small, we keep it in our lives. The more benefits it offers, the more we pile it on. We've all been there, downloading a new app, excited about how it could improve our lives, but before we know it, it's another thing demanding our time and attention. We keep adding, stacking more digital clutter on top of ourselves, thinking that we're improving our lives, when in reality, we're just drowning in a sea of distractions. But Newport's approach is different. He asks us to focus on the quality of our digital experiences, rather than the quantity. Instead of accumulating apps and platforms, we need to ask ourselves, what is essential? What truly serves my values? This is about intentionally curating the technology in your life to only include the tools that help you live the life you want to lead. At the heart of this philosophy is a powerful principle from the great thinker Henry David Thoreau. Thoreau's idea of new economics tells us that the true cost of anything isn't just in its price tag, it's in the life energy required to maintain it. Think about it. Every app, every notification, every social media account demands something from you: your attention, your time, your mental energy. These are all finite resources. And when you spread yourself too thin, constantly trying to maintain and keep up with everything, you drain that energy. In this way, technology isn't just costing you money, it's costing you your life. The more things you add to your digital life, the more of yourself you have to give to keep them running. And when you give away your attention to everything, you're left with nothing to give to the things that truly matter. The cost is much higher than we often realize. But digital minimalism isn't just about saying no to distractions. It's about saying yes to what truly matters. Newport encourages us to work backward from our values. What are the things that really matter to you? What do you value most in life? Once you identify those things, you can then choose technologies that support those values, rather than technologies that distract you from them. This is how digital minimalists work. They ask themselves, how can this technology help me live a more focused, meaningful life? And if it can't, they simply don't use it. This process might sound difficult at first. After all, we're so used to being constantly connected, constantly available. But when you start with your values, everything falls into place. Your choices become clearer. You're no longer overwhelmed by the sheer number of apps, notifications, and platforms. Instead, you begin to see technology as a tool to help you build the life you want, not as a force that demands your attention at every turn. So how do you begin to put digital minimalism into practice? Understanding the philosophy is just the beginning. Newport has laid out a proven process that helps us shift from overwhelmed technology users to intentional digital minimalists. But the hard part is making the change. It's about more than just theory. It's about transformation. And that transformation starts with taking control of your technology use, setting boundaries, and being intentional about how you engage with the digital world. It's a journey of rediscovery, a chance to find meaning in a world that often feels overwhelming. So, stay with me as we explore Newport's step-by-step process for implementing this philosophy into your life. This is where the real work begins. And trust me, it's worth it. Now that we understand the power of digital minimalism and the philosophy behind it, it's time to roll up our sleeves and dive into the real work. Newport's solution doesn't just involve theory. It's about taking action. And that starts with a powerful, transformative process, the digital declutter. The digital declutter is a 3-step reset designed to break you free from the grip of digital distractions. It's a 30-day experiment, a structured break from the technologies that tend to consume our time and attention. Think of it as hitting the reset button on your digital life, a way to clear the mental clutter and regain control over how you use technology. So, how does this work? The process is simple but effective. Here's how it breaks down. Step 1. Take a 30-day break from optional technologies. This is the part that requires some serious self-reflection. First, you'll need to identify which technologies in your life are truly essential and which ones are optional, meaning they don't directly support your core values or goals. The goal here is to take a 30-day break from everything that isn't essential. This includes social media apps, gaming, streaming services, or any apps you check out of habit, not necessity. Here's an example. Let's say you use Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter to stay connected with friends or to keep up with the news. These might feel like necessary parts of your daily routine, but ask yourself, are they really adding value to your life, or are they simply distracting you? The key here is to determine what's optional and what's truly essential. If you're not sure, ask yourself this. Does this technology support my values, or does it just pull me away from what really matters? You might be wondering, what about email? What about text messages from family or work? These, of course, are essential technologies. They help you maintain important relationships or perform necessary tasks. Newport's approach doesn't ask you to cut off your essential communication tools. It simply asks you to hit pause on the optional ones that create noise and distraction in your life. Step 2. Explore meaningful offline activities. Once you've hit pause on the optional technologies, it's time to get creative. What will you do with all this newfound time? This is where the magic happens. You'll need to find activities that don't involve a screen, activities that are meaningful, fulfilling, and aligned with your values. This is where you'll rediscover what it feels like to live without constant interruptions. Think about it. When was the last time you sat down to read a book, went for a walk without your phone, or worked on a craft or hobby just for the sake of enjoyment? For many, these activities have been crowded out by the constant demand of digital devices. But now, with the optional distractions out of the way, you have a chance to reconnect with activities that fill you up, activities that nurture your mind and spirit. This might also be the perfect time to rekindle relationships in person. Set up a face-to-face coffee date with a friend you haven't seen in a while, or take a phone call from a family member instead of texting back and forth. By focusing on offline activities, you're replacing mindless scrolling with meaningful engagement that supports your emotional and social well-being. Step 3. Reintroduce only essential technologies with clear boundaries. The final step of the digital declutter is about reintegration. After your 30-day break, it's time to carefully reintroduce the technologies you've paused, but only those that serve a clear purpose. And this time, you'll do so with specific operating procedures in place. This means setting boundaries and rules for how, when, and why you use these technologies. Let's say you decide that email is essential for work. That's fine. But instead of checking it all day, You could establish a rule. I'll check my email once in the morning and once in the afternoon, but no more than that. Or maybe you decide that social media is important for maintaining relationships with friends, but you don't want to get caught in the endless scroll. You might set a rule like, I'll check social media only twice a day for 10 minutes each time, and only after I've completed my work tasks for the day. The key here is intentionality. You want to reintroduce technologies into your life in a way that doesn't overwhelm you or pull you back into old habits. By setting clear boundaries, you regain control over how you engage with technology. You become the master, not the slave, of your devices. Newport's experiment with over 1,600 participants who completed the digital declutter process is a testament to its effectiveness. These participants reported significant improvements in their ability to focus, higher levels of satisfaction in their offline activities, and a greater sense of control over their lives. They found that the jarring reset, as Newport calls it, was exactly what they needed to break free from the cycle of digital addiction and overwhelm. It's important to note that the digital declutter isn't just a short-term fix. It's a long-term strategy for reclaiming your time and attention. It's about moving from being a frazzled maximalist who juggles too many digital tasks to an intentional minimalist who uses technology to enhance life, not to detract from it. But here's the catch: the declutter is just the beginning. Breaking free from your old habits is a huge step, but the true challenge lies in maintaining digital minimalism long-term. To do that, you need to cultivate new habits and practices that fill the void left by mindless scrolling. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to build those new practices, how to reclaim your time, your focus, and your peace of mind in a world that's constantly trying to grab your attention. The declutter may have broken the addictive patterns, but now it's time to create a lifestyle that supports your new, intentional way of living. We've spent a lot of time talking about the technology we use and the impact it has on our lives, but now it's time to talk about something a bit deeper: solitude. You see, one of the major consequences of our constant connectivity is something Newport calls solitude deprivation. In a world where we're always plugged in, always surrounded by noise, and always connected to other people through devices, the idea of being alone with our own thoughts seems almost foreign. But here's the problem: solitude, true uninterrupted time alone with ourselves, is essential for our mental health. It's during these quiet moments that we have the space to think, reflect, and recharge. Solitude deprivation is the result of spending little to no time alone. It's when we fill every free moment with distractions, whether that's checking our phones, browsing the internet, or constantly being around other people. And the consequences are real. Studies have shown that solitude deprivation is linked to rising rates of anxiety and depression. When we don't give ourselves the time to reflect, to process our emotions, or simply to rest, it takes a toll on our mental well-being. But the problem doesn't stop there. Even the briefest moments of boredom, those fleeting seconds when we might normally pause and just be, are quickly filled by our phones. You're waiting for the bus, standing in line at the grocery store, or walking down the street, and without thinking, you reach for your phone. You check your notifications, scroll mindlessly through social media, or browse the latest news. That brief moment of boredom is gone, filled with a digital distraction. What's happening here is that we've lost the ability to sit with ourselves. We're so used to constantly being connected to others that the idea of being alone with our own thoughts feels uncomfortable. But it's precisely in these moments of solitude, those moments where you don't have anything to do, no one to talk to, and nothing to scroll through, that we can begin to clarify our thoughts, regulate our emotions, and ultimately become more grounded. Newport offers some practical strategies to help us reclaim solitude, even in our busy, digitally connected lives. The first is something he calls phone-free walks. The idea is simple. When you go for a walk, leave your phone behind. Don't take it with you as a crutch, a distraction, or something to occupy your attention. Instead, let your mind wander and allow yourself the freedom to think, reflect, and be present in the moment. It's amazing how much clarity can come from these simple walks, how much peace and understanding can emerge when we stop distracting ourselves and allow our brains to settle into stillness. Another strategy Newport recommends is commute meditation. If you take public transportation or drive to work, use that time as an opportunity to meditate or just think. It's an ideal moment to check in with yourself, reflect on the day ahead, or even just focus on your breath for a few minutes. Instead of mindlessly scrolling through social media or getting lost in your email inbox, use this time to build a sense of inner calm and focus. Finally, Newport suggests scheduled solitude, making a commitment to regular, intentional alone time. This might look like setting aside a specific block of time each week to be completely by yourself, without any distractions. Whether it's reading, journaling, or simply sitting in silence, the key is to make solitude a regular practice in your life. Now, while solitude is essential for rebuilding your inner world, it's not the only thing that needs attention. You also need to think about your relationships. But, and this is key, not in the way you might think. This brings us to our next challenge, the paradox of digital connection. We live in an age where we are more connected than ever before. Social media, text messages, emails, and online interactions make it seem like we're constantly in touch with others. But here's the twist. All this digital connection is actually making us feel more isolated. We feel connected online, but we're often more lonely than ever. Newport explains that digital connection, the likes, the comments, the endless texting, cannot replace the deep psychological benefits of real conversation. Here's the key difference. Conversation, true face-to-face dialogue, or even a phone call, is fundamentally different from connection, the likes, comments, and texts that flow through social media. When we have a real conversation, we're engaging on a much deeper level. We're not just exchanging information, we're building emotional connections, strengthening our relationships, and offering support. Digital connection, on the other hand, is often shallow. It may give us the illusion of interaction, but it doesn't offer the same psychological rewards. Take a moment to think about it. How often do you scroll through your social media feed, liking photos or commenting on posts, only to walk away feeling more disconnected than when you started? Social media creates the illusion that we're maintaining relationships, but in reality, it's often doing the opposite. The more time we spend on these platforms, the weaker our real bonds become. Newport's "Don't Click Like" philosophy is a call to go beyond the superficiality of digital interactions and to engage in more meaningful ways. Instead of relying on likes and emojis, Newport urges us to prioritize phone calls and in-person meetings. These real conversations, whether they're with family, friends, or colleagues, provide something deeper, an authentic connection that cannot be replicated by digital communication. But rebuilding these relationships doesn't just stop at conversation. You also need to fill the hours that you would normally spend scrolling through your phone with activities that actually satisfy your human needs. This is where the true power of digital minimalism comes in. Once you've reclaimed your time and attention from mindless scrolling, you can invest it in activities that nurture your mental and emotional well-being, whether that's pursuing a creative passion, getting outside in nature, or spending quality time with loved ones. In the next chapter, we'll look at how to fill that void left by digital distractions, how to engage in activities that are physically, socially, and mentally fulfilling. These activities will not only help you maintain the changes you've made, but they'll also allow you to live a life that is richer, deeper, and more meaningful, without the constant noise of digital distractions. In our hyper-connected world, it often feels like we're more connected than ever before. We're constantly texting, tweeting, liking, commenting, and sharing. At first glance, it seems like we're keeping up with the people in our lives, staying connected, maintaining relationships. But here's the problem. This digital connection is, in many ways, destroying real relationships. In his book, Newport makes a key distinction between conversation and connection. And this difference is crucial to understanding why so many of us feel both connected and lonely at the same time. Conversation, the kind we have face-to-face or even over the phone, is a deeper, richer form of interaction. When we engage in a conversation, we're not just exchanging information. We're connecting emotionally, we're building trust, and we're sharing experiences in a meaningful way. A conversation involves more than words. It involves tone, body language, and the subtle nuances of human interaction. It's about understanding one another, being fully present, and engaging with the other person on a human level. Connection, on the other hand, as defined in the context of digital platforms, is much more superficial. It's the likes, the comments, the short bursts of text messages, the notifications that pop up every few seconds. These digital interactions give us the illusion of being socially engaged, but they lack the depth and substance of real conversation. Newport highlights that these digital connections, whether it's a like on Facebook, a comment on an Instagram photo, or a text message, don't allow us to truly connect. Sure, they may show us that someone noticed our post or that someone is thinking of us, but they don't involve the deep, meaningful exchanges that make us feel truly seen and heard. Social media creates the illusion that we're maintaining relationships, but in reality, it's weakening them. The social media paradox is what Newport calls the phenomenon where people feel both connected and lonely at the same time. On the surface, it seems like we're engaging with people. After all, we're liking their photos, commenting on their status updates, and texting back and forth. But deep down, we know that these interactions aren't fulfilling. We might feel a momentary sense of connection, but it fades quickly. And the more we engage in these shallow digital interactions, the more disconnected we become from the people who really matter to us. One of the main issues with digital connection is that it creates a false sense of closeness. We can feel like we're maintaining relationships because we're constantly checking in on what others are doing. But in reality, we're not having real conversations. We're not engaging in ways that build emotional intimacy. And because we're only engaging on a surface level, we're missing out on the deeper connections that actually nourish our relationships. So what's the solution? Newport's answer is simple yet powerful. Don't click like. Instead of relying on the fleeting approval of social media, make a conscious choice to engage in deeper, more meaningful interactions. Pick up the phone and call someone instead of sending a quick text. Arrange a coffee date or a lunch with a friend rather than just liking their latest photo. Engage in face-to-face conversations where you can truly connect, not just through words, but through body language, tone, and genuine presence. The key takeaway here is that real relationships are built on conversation, not connection. While social media and texting can be useful for maintaining light interactions, they can't replace the emotional and psychological benefits of having a real, deep conversation. It's time to stop substituting the richness of conversation with the shallowness of digital connection. And this doesn't just apply to friends or family. It applies to everyone in our lives. If you're in a work setting, for example, consider how much more productive and meaningful your interactions can be when they involve real-time conversation, when you take the time to actually talk things through, whether in person or over the phone. You create stronger, more trusting relationships that can't be replicated with a digital comment or emoji. But let's take a step further. Beyond rebuilding relationships through deeper, more intentional conversation, you also need to address the hours you previously spent on digital distractions. Now that you've created more space for meaningful interactions, you have the perfect opportunity to fill that time with activities that actually satisfy your human needs. After all, our digital lives are often full of distractions, endless scrolling, checking for new notifications, or getting lost in a social media rabbit hole. These activities might fill time, but they don't truly nourish us. They don't fulfill the deeper needs of our humanity. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to fill the void left by mindless scrolling with activities that are truly fulfilling, activities that support your physical, emotional, and mental well-being. Whether it's physical exercise, creative pursuits, or investing more time in your relationships, there are countless ways to engage in activities that nourish your soul without needing to turn to your phone for fulfillment. So stay with me as we move beyond the digital clutter and into a life that's richer, more focused, and full of meaningful experiences. Let's get into what truly brings satisfaction and fulfillment in our world of endless distractions. We've discussed how to reclaim your time from the addictive pull of digital devices, and we've explored the importance of deep, meaningful conversations and solitude. But there's one more crucial piece to the puzzle of digital minimalism: replacing the empty, passive consumption of digital media with high-quality leisure. Let's face it, many of us have fallen into the trap of low-quality digital leisure. It's easy, it's convenient, and it's always available. Think about it for a second. How many times have you found yourself mindlessly scrolling through Netflix, YouTube, or social media, hoping for something interesting to grab your attention? How often do you catch yourself scrolling through endless feeds or binge-watching another episode of a show only to end up feeling more drained than when you started? This is the leisure trap Newport talks about. Low-quality digital leisure, like passive consumption of TV shows, endless social media scrolling, or hours of mindless browsing, may feel satisfying in the moment, but it's ultimately empty. It doesn't offer us the kind of fulfillment that nourishes us as human beings. Sure, it can be fun or relaxing for a while, but after a certain point, it leaves us feeling disconnected, unfulfilled, and craving something more meaningful. So how do we break free from this trap? The key is to replace passive consumption with active, skill-building leisure activities that engage us physically, mentally, and socially. These are activities that not only fill our time, but that also add value to our lives. By shifting from low-quality digital leisure to high-quality analog activities, we start to build something deeper, something that enriches our lives rather than just filling time. Let's consider the difference between passive and active leisure. Passive activities like watching TV or scrolling through social media don't require much effort or engagement. They're easy and convenient, but they don't help us grow or develop. They're like empty calories for the mind. They don't provide real nourishment. On the other hand, active leisure involves engagement, whether that's learning a new skill, engaging in creative expression, or participating in physical activities. This kind of leisure requires you to show up, put in effort, and be present. And the rewards are far greater than anything you'd get from scrolling through Instagram or watching the latest trending video. Newport introduces the Bennett principle, which advocates for prioritizing demanding activities over passive consumption. The idea is simple. The more demanding an activity is, whether mentally, physically, or emotionally, the more rewarding it will be in the long run. Engaging in challenging activities isn't always easy, but it's what leads to true fulfillment and satisfaction. Imagine this. Instead of zoning out with another episode of a TV show, you could take up a craft or start learning a new hobby: painting, woodworking, knitting, or even photography. These activities require you to use your hands, your mind, and your creativity. They engage you in the present moment, forcing you to focus and immerse yourself fully in the process. And unlike passive consumption, these activities provide a real sense of accomplishment and joy. Or maybe you decide to pick up a physical skill, something like learning to play a musical instrument, practicing yoga, or training for a marathon. These activities push you to develop discipline, strengthen your body, and expand your abilities. They not only improve your physical health, but they also build mental resilience and emotional well-being. Unlike mindless scrolling, these activities leave you feeling energized, accomplished, and deeply satisfied. And let's not forget about structured social activities. Instead of just scrolling through your friends' photos on Facebook, why not organize a gathering or a weekly game night? Plan an outing with friends or family, or engage in community activities that promote real, face-to-face interactions. These are the kinds of social experiences that build meaningful connections, deepen relationships, and provide a sense of belonging. These high-quality leisure activities are what make life feel truly fulfilling. They're not just distractions, they're opportunities for growth, connection, and joy. By replacing passive digital leisure with these enriching experiences, you're setting yourself up for a more intentional and rewarding life. Newport stresses that without this replacement, without shifting from passive to active leisure, people will inevitably drift back to their devices, lured by the boredom and empty craving for digital distractions. When you don't have something more engaging and meaningful to fill your time, the pull of mindless scrolling becomes all too easy to give into. But by consciously choosing to invest your time in activities that nurture your body, mind, and relationships, you create a life that is richer, more fulfilling, and far less dependent on the digital noise around you. Now, individual transformation is powerful. You've taken the first steps to reclaim your attention, to limit distractions, and to engage in deeper, more meaningful activities. But to sustain digital minimalism in our hyper-connected world, you need to join a larger movement, a movement that focuses on living intentionally in the face of constant digital distractions. The shift to digital minimalism isn't just about personal change, it's about creating a cultural shift. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to become part of this movement, how to connect with others who are on this journey, and how to support one another in building lives that are focused, intentional, and deeply satisfying. As we come to the final chapter, it's time to reflect on the journey you've been on. From understanding how digital distractions have infiltrated our lives to embracing the philosophy of digital minimalism, you've learned the tools and strategies necessary to regain control over your attention and focus. But this journey doesn't end with individual transformation. In fact, it's just the beginning. Digital minimalism is more than just a personal optimization tool. It's about joining something larger, a cultural movement that Cal Newport refers to as the attention resistance. This movement is made up of people just like you, people who refuse to let their lives be dictated by the attention economy, that ever-expanding network of tech companies and platforms designed to capture and hold your attention for their profit. By embracing Newport's philosophy, you're not just optimizing your own life, you're taking a stand against the forces that have turned technology into an addictive, time-draining force. You're transforming yourself from a passive victim of digital distraction into an intentional architect of your own life. You're choosing how, when, and why you engage with technology rather than letting it control you. You're taking back your time and your focus. Think about it. The world is constantly vying for your attention. News, social media, endless notifications, all pulling you in different directions. But by applying Newport's 3 core principles, the digital declutter process, and the ongoing practices you've learned, you've made the conscious choice to live differently. You've said no to the mindless scroll, the constant pinging, and the illusion of connection that comes with digital distraction. And instead, you've chosen a life that is focused, intentional, and aligned with your deepest values. Newport makes an important point. Technology is neither good nor bad. It's simply a tool. The problem arises when technology begins to use you instead of you using it. The key is in how you engage with it. When technology aligns with your values and supports your goals, it becomes a powerful tool for good. But when it becomes a source of distraction and mindless consumption, it robs you of the time and energy that should be spent on more meaningful pursuits. This is the crux of digital minimalism, learning how to curate your digital life. By carefully selecting the tools, platforms, and technologies that genuinely support your personal growth and well-being, you create a life that is not just possible, but deeply satisfying. A curated digital life doesn't just free up your time. It gives you the space to live intentionally, to focus on what truly matters, and to stop wasting energy on what doesn't. As you move forward, I want you to ask yourself one powerful question. What's one digital tool that you thought was essential, but realize might actually be optional when you really think about your deep values? Maybe it's a social media platform that no longer serves your personal growth, or an app that steals your time without giving you anything meaningful in return. Once you identify that tool, consider whether it truly aligns with your values or whether it's just another source of distraction. By taking this moment to evaluate your digital tools through the lens of your values, you'll find yourself making choices that empower you rather than drain you. This is the power of digital minimalism. It's about intentionality. It's about saying yes to what enhances your life and no to what takes away from it. And by doing so, you join a growing community of digital minimalists who are on the same journey, people who are rejecting the chaos of the attention economy and creating lives that are more fulfilling, more focused, and more connected to the things that truly matter. So, if Newport's philosophy of intentional technology use resonates with you, don't let it stop here. Take the next step. Subscribe for more insights on building a focused life in our noisy world. Let's continue to build a community of digital minimalists together. People who are committed to living more thoughtfully, more intentionally, and more meaningfully in a world that constantly demands our attention. This is your path to a focused life. You have the tools, the philosophy, and the community to make it happen. Now it's up to you. The question is, what will you do with your newfound freedom?